Hey, right, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is another video in the part about React in this Express playlist, where we created an API, which is under test 3. So we have the API, so I'm going to go get that going first. So open an integrated terminal, and that's just going to be an npm run dev. That gets the API running. And it should be connected to Mongo, because it hasn't been a week since the last video. And then I'm going to go get my front end going, open an integrated terminal. I think that's what's the script, package JSON. Yeah, npm run dev. Let's see here. Let me just make sure these are running on different ports. And that's running on port 3003. Good. Okay. So last we left off, we set it up so that way it can show us all the dogs. So see, it's grabbing from the database, doing an API call. So we did that in our, so again, in React, I'm going to go to, no, this is the API in front end. In React, I'm going to source app.js, and then we had this API call that went and got the dogs, and that data was then sent down to the dog list component here. Okay. Now what we want to do is create like a form where you can create a new dog. Okay, so I'll just first create a new component. So I'm going to go to components. Okay, and let me think about this. How do I want to do this? Because essentially what I'd like to do is then update the list of dogs after. So what I actually do want to do is create a function that will essentially do, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to refactor this a little bit. I'm going to create a function that basically updates the state and gets the dogs. Okay, so I'm going to just do const get dogs equals, and I'm just going to basically move all this whole fetch piece into there. Cut. So that'll do that, and then I'll just invoke that function in here. Now the reason I want to do that is so that way I can use that function again to get the dogs. Okay, so basically again, React.useEffect, when that gets run when the component first loads up. So the component first loads up, it runs the getDogs function, which fetches the dog data, then sets the state of dogs to that data, which then updates the component with the list of dogs. Okay, so that's essentially the pattern here right now. Okay, so I'm going to go create a new component. And so I'm going to just take my little template here, copy, paste, rename new dog, because I'm going to create a form. newdog.js. Okay, and then this is going to be a form. So what I do need is I need a new state variable in here that keeps track of the data of the dog. So we're going to do this const. They want to do the whole state thing, so I'll call the variable form data, and then we're going to say set form data, and that's going to equal react.useState, and that's going to start off with an object, and I think it's just dog name and age. So name will just be an empty string, and age will start out as null. Okay. Actually, as 0. Cool. Okay, so that's sort of just a blank form. That's the goal there. The idea is that the state should be initialized with sort of what a blank form should have. Then we're going to create the form fields, which will just be an input of type text for the name, which will have a name property of text. Okay, so let me do that differently. I have to self-close it because in React you can't have open tags. input type equals number. That's going to be the age. And then we're going to have a submit button. Okay, there's our form. Okay, so a couple things. I need to make sure that I bind this form to this piece of data here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function called handle change. This is just sort of the typical way you handle forms in React. So handle change. So const handle change. Okay, and what this is going to do is that anytime we change what's inside the form, it's going to update the form data variable. So handle change equals a function, and this is an event handler, so I need the event object. And what I want it to do is to say set form data. Okay, we create an object where a field with a property name, so event.target.name, so it grabs the field, which actually this should be name, not text. So essentially, it's just saying, hey, okay, I want to edit the field called name, and we're going to say that field is going to equal the event.target.value, so the value of that field. And actually, again, this is an object, so should be a colon. And then actually first I want to spread the original item, so it's dot form data. So that basically includes all the original form data elements, but then replaces the one that changed. So when we edit name, it'll replace name. When we edit age, it'll replace age, because again, event.target.name is going to be whatever string is in here. So that's the beauty of that setup. So that's all that's going to do. It's just going to update the state every time we change the form. Okay. So that handles a change. So I have to add that function to my events. And the way you do add an event to a React element is you have to type in. Usually we just type in like on change. But since it's React, it has to be camel case. So it's on change equals, and then you pass in handle change. Okay. And we do the same thing on the other one. And we have to bind its value to the variable as well. So we have to say set value equals set form data dot age. So that way they are always like, basically this form will update when the variable updates. So essentially every time we type something new, it updates the variable in the state, which then updates the variable in the data in the form. That's essentially the pattern here. Okay, it's kind of a weird pattern, but it's what you have to do for React to work the right way. Dot name. Okay. So that all the information now the form should work. So if I go back, well, let me actually import this this component. So let me go back to my app component. Let's bring in another component. So import new dog from /components /new dog.js. And let's just put that in here. I'll put that right under the dog list. So new dog. Okay. And let's take a look. Found dispatch action. Interesting. That's working, but this is not working. So let's see what we did wrong. Okay, name, empty string. Value set form data dot name. Oh wait, that's why. This should be form data dot name. The variable is form data, not set form data. There we go. That should fix it. Nope, that still doesn't quite do it. Where did we go wrong here? Value equals form data dot age. Oh, it's capitalized. Because form data is spelled that way. Ah, there we go. Okay, so now it works. Good. Okay. So right now the submit button doesn't do anything because we haven't given it a thing to do. So now we need to work on that. Which is just, you know, straightforward event listener. So const handle click. And you might see in some React videos you do all this binding stuff. That's for class components. In function components you don't have to worry about binding as long as you do everything with arrow functions. Okay, handle click is, I'll still pass in the event just in case. But essentially all this should do and I'm going to assume that that getDogs function we made earlier is going to be passed into this component as a prop. So I'm going to do this. Const getDogs equals props. So I have to go make sure that I pass in that function later, but I'll come back to that. Okay, handle click. So when this gets clicked on, what we're going to do is I'm going to destructure the two. Yeah, let's do that. Let's destructure the two variables from form data. So name, age equals form data. That way I don't have to be typing in form data all the time. And then we're going to make a fetch call. So fetch. First parameter is the URL, so it's http://www dot, no, not www dot, localhost 3003. And that should be good. Then the second parameter is all our configurations. So we're making a post request now because we're making a new dog. So that's going to be method post headers. So that's headers is what we have to send in there to communicate like what's going on here. So really the only header we have to send in there is content. I think it's content type application/JSON. I think that needs to be lowercase. Application JSON. Okay, so that's being sent there. And then we have to include the body that we're sending in there. So JSON dot stringify. That's the function we need to turn it into a JSON string. And what we're sending over is an object with the data that we need. So that's going to be the name and the age. Okay, so we send over an object with the name and the age. And I think that is good. And I don't need to worry about the response. I'm not going to do anything with the response. So then what I can just do is then run that getDogs function again to update the list of dogs. And that should do the job. Let me think about that for a second. Just make sure, yeah, that looks good. Okay, makes the post request and calls it a day. Now I just need to go pass in that function. So in new dog, I need to pass it in getDogs equals, and I think the name of the function is getDogs, yeah. So getDogs equals the function getDogs. Okay, so that way that component has access to it. I'm passing that function down into the new dog component, so that way it has access to it via props. Okay, that's what props is. It's properties that are passed into the lower component. And now I think we should be able to add dogs. Let's try it out. I want to actually open up the inspector first, just to make sure that if we see any errors, we see them. Okay, so let's see here. Let's make a dog name Snuffles. And it's 3 years old. I hit submit. Oh, I didn't actually click add the function to the button. Okay, so let's go back to new dog. I need to go to the button. make this on click equals handle click. Okay, there we go. Now when the button gets clicked, it'll run that handle click function. Okay, so Snuffles, I'll say Snuffles is 3 years old. Let's do the click. And we got some stuff there, 404 not found. GetDogs is not a function. Wait, let me see here. Let's take a look. GetDogs is not a function. We're getting GetDogs from props. That's fine. And I'm passing in GetDogs, right? Oh, I see. GetDog is the prop, so I have to change this to GetDogs. There we go. That's that piece. And why is it not seeing HTTP localhost 3000? So let me just make sure the server's still running here. You are listening on port 3000. Yeah, so the port's still the local host 3000. Oh, it's /dog. That's why. Okay, I see. So I gotta change this to /dog. Okay. And I'll hit refresh. And then we're gonna try to add Snuffles again. He was 3 years old. Submit. There we go. Oh, I've added Snuffles twice. Okay. But there you go. Okay, I clicked the button. Now why didn't it add it that time? Why do I have to hit it twice? Now what I do want to do, now what I do want to do is I want to clear out the form the minute that it's done. So what I need to do here as well, so we run the new dog. Okay, what I want to do is I want to reset the form. So we're going to just sit there and say set form data, and we're going to go back to a blank form. So I'm just going to copy the same object that was original, so that way it goes back to its original state. And that clears the form. There we go. And cool. That should do that. Let's go over here. Let's just test that works. Okay, let's have a dog named Spike, who's 5. I hit submit. It does clear the form. But why doesn't Spike reappear? It does reappear, so it's not updating the state the way I'd expect it to. Let me think about this function here. It should. It has the right scope. And it does it on multiple tries. But why? Try something just with the API call, because it does eventually work. So if I say a dog named Cheese called number 5, okay, but if I click it again, it does appear the second time. We'll look at the handle click function. So does the post weird. Okay, well that's odd. I'm not gonna hang up too much about it. It's doing mainly what I needed to do. Now let's create a, well, basically you can then create like a delete function and whatnot. It's the same concept. You just make a post request to your endpoints, or a get request, or a delete request, or a put request using the same fetch syntax. But yeah, so that's kind of basically how you would make a React front end for that same API that we did in the beginning with Express and then made a jQuery front end. Same concept. Takes a little bit more time consuming for something simple. Probably React is overkill, but it's good practice. Yeah. And then essentially what happens here is if we clone the server, there's a command called npm run build. Npm run build will then build out our thing. Okay, so it'll actually like build it, and then it'll show up in this folder. So here our final version shows up in this folder here. So essentially this folder is what you deploy. So what you would do is like you would connect it to Netlify like we did in the earlier video, but then it gets to that screen where it asks you the command and build folder. So you would just put npm run build as the build command, and then as a folder, the output folder, you would put dist if you're using my template. Okay, so you would choose dist or dist as sort of the output folder, and then that's how that would work. That then you would have a you would have deployed the front end there. Okay, but otherwise, I'm gonna end this video series. I'll see you guys later on. Have a great day and enjoy.